if they dropped out of college, then they were eligible for the draft and would get drafted.
So when you were in college during Kent State, so I know that they shut down classes in Ohio, but did they shut down classes anywhere else in the U.S.?
Did they shut down classes? Yes, they did. They shut down classes. It was a very short period of time for mourning for the kids that got killed at Kent State. But at the University of Michigan, it was a very volatile time, too, and I'm surprised something like that didn't happen. We had a lot of demonstrations going on. There was a group called BAM, which was Black Action Movement. It was for people of color that felt that they had been discriminated against at the University of Michigan. That was another thing, but that had nothing to do with the war, of course. But yes, it was shut down for, I think, a day. I can't remember how long.
So it wasn't long enough to affect your education?
Long enough to affect me what?
So it wasn't long enough to affect your education?
To affect me as a what? I'm sorry, I didn't get
to affect your education.
As a person. Shut down long enough to affect me as a person.
No,
I don't think that the fact that it was shut down, I think it just kind of footnoted or imprinted on me how serious it was. I think that the whole situation affected me, as a person. I mean, I think I didn't feel as secure anymore after that. I felt vulnerable. Like, holy smoke! If our own troops can come in and shoot at us, I'm going to make sure that I'm not anywhere near that if that ever happens.
Yes.
So from that degree, it made me more insecure.
Could the troops have been also kids your age at that time? Could they have been college age?
Yeah. Did they die?
No, the troops. Were the troops like college age? Do you think that could have had more of an effect because were the troops, if the troops were older, they were more likely to
Actually, the troops that were in there that day, the majority of them were 19, 20-year-olds, just like the college kids that died.
Well,
many of them were very young.
So, but were these troops, do you believe they were supporters of the Vietnam War, or do you...
Oh, I'm sure it was a mixed group. There were always some who didn't want to go that were drafted, and then there were some that wanted to go, that believed in the war. Just like when we have politicians today and amendments to the Constitution and so on, there's some people that believe in it, some people that don't. I happen to not believe in the war at that time. But it wouldn't have... See, like I said earlier, it wouldn't have stopped me if I had gotten drafted from going.
Yeah.
Because, if you didn't go, you had to leave the country, really, because otherwise you could get arrested for draft dodging.
Gotcha. So when kids were in college, was it more likely? I learned that it was more likely for college students who could afford college to not be drafted, and then lower class kids who could not afford college were drafted. Do you believe that most of the population that died was more lower class than middle class and upper class?
Well, that's an interesting discussion, yes. I would say that's very true. I would say that the people that were not in college were, probably from a lower income group of people and lower educated, I don't want to say that, but they were from a lower end. They didn't have the advantages that some other people did to go to college.
Yeah.
Or they didn't have it. They maybe had the ability, many of them, but they didn't have the wherewithal, nor did they have the desire. So many of them went into it was kind of a natural thing during that period. If you didn't go to college, then you had to do something because they were going to draft all the eligible kids. And they did. Over 50,000 people died in that war.
Yeah. Well, do you believe if that were if you lived in during World War II at that age, do you believe that some of that could have happened during a previous war or?
Well, that was a little bit of a different war, I think, for people.
Yeah.
If you have to remember that in 1941, Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and that was our country, our territory, and a lot of people were killed then. I think I might have felt a little bit different. They were on our doorstep, they were on our land, and I think I would have felt a little bit differently about that war in Vietnam if the Vietnamese had come over here and attacked us on our shores somehow. And I think that made a big difference in World War II. There was more altruistic kind of thing, more loyalty toward your country because, this was our safety, our sons and daughters and women and children, the women participated as much as the men, but I think that was a big difference between World War II and Vietnam. Even Korea, I don't think was a very popular war.
Yeah, because what would you say that so since we were fighting, we weren't fighting for ourselves, we were fighting for the in another country, so because we didn't want the communism to spread or whatever. So
but you see, there was a lot of debate about that. Part of the debate about people like myself and other people that were not pro-war or anti-war, it was hard to understand what we were fighting for.
Yeah.
Some country that was thousands of miles away. Now I can understand people being persecuted and killed, unjustly, but it's kind of hard to identify and really get into the fact that we got to defend those people. It's totally different when you have somebody attacking your own land. Then you are directly threatened. It's a whole different situation. But all the kids that I know, I went into to take my physical, after I was out of college, and I saw many of my friends in there, and none of them wanted to go, to be drafted. Mm-hmm. But what it meant simply is if you passed the physical, you were going to get a number, and then you would eventually get called if the war raged on. Well, the war was starting to wind down by the time, I was called. For the physical.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of lucked out all the way around because a lot of people that went to that war, did not come home.
Yeah.
There were a lot of young men and women that were killed.
Yeah.
You've been to the Washington wall, the memorial there, and you saw all the names on the wall.
Yeah.
And they all were real people with real families,
Yeah. And they all had no choice too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Do you believe if we hadn't fought the war that the communism would have spread and the Red Scare would have continued, or
That's an excellent question. Do I believe it would have spread? I believe that it probably would have spread throughout Southeast Asia, because but then you've got to remember that even though we fought in the war, we fought for the country, we did not win that war. We were defeated. And they did overtake all of Vietnam. The North became the South became the North, and they were one country, and it has not spread since then. We withdrew. They took over. So when you say spread, Cambodia had problems, and some of these other countries that were adjacent to it had problems too, but it was already there, and it's not really any different than it is. Communism kind of stopped itself, I think.
Yeah.
But so when you say, what did it spread, I don't think very much.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. A lot of people would disagree with that.
Yeah. So, during Kent State, it was said to believe that since the war was winding down after Kent State, they said Kent State was okay. It said Kent State was kind of like the end of protests because
Yes.
yeah,
They were protesting the Vietnam War.
yeah,
I mean, and like I said, it actually was a 4-day event, as I remember. You
yeah,
have to check the records, but I think it started on the 1st.
yep,
And as I remember, and I mentioned that they really were demonstrating against the United States extending the war to Cambodia.
yeah. So
We had troops in there, and then they were violating that when it happened, although it is, I think, thought of really as a Vietnam protest.
So do you believe that after Kent State, that kind of helped Nixon decide whether to go to Cambodia or not?
Well, I don't think that happened. It certainly, after Kent State, it even became more unpopular. It was unpopular. It became more unpopular. But I think that the whole trend in the United States, the whole feeling of the war became more and more and more. People got more and more against it. So finally, the government says, we can't maintain this. We have to get out of there. And then the evacuation really started, letting down. And they didn't want to get into another war with Cambodia after leaving Vietnam.
Yeah.
It was very unpopular with all American people.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to say about how this affected the way you live today, or
how that particular incident?
Yeah.
Like I said, I would willingly participate in demonstrations. I didn't do a lot of it, but I wouldn't have had any qualms about it. But after that the shooting in Kent State, I would never go near it, and I wouldn't participate in a demonstration today. So if you want to know how it affected me, I certainly would not willingly or openly participate because I'd be too worried. And I think a lot of my fear would stem from the time that the shooting actually occurred. But, there are other deterrents, too. Like, you wouldn't want to get arrested. You wouldn't want to get tear gas in your eyes, that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Waka.
Are you done?
Yeah.